Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live in the First Watch. 10th meeting for a World Health Organization, WHO, instrument on pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response. And in the second watch, the attempted assassination of Trump. For our social media question, we ask, what are your thoughts on the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump, US President? Share your responses on our Facebook or YouTube Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-9973125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your comments later on the program, but first, here's our quote.
All right, so today's I quote. Today's I quote is from John F. Kennedy, and it says, "Those who look only to the past or present are certain to miss the future," by JFK.
And interestingly, he is a former US president who was assassinated while he was in office.
Exactly.
The main watch will be back after this break.
Matthew 19 verse 14 says, "But Jesus said, Suffer the little children, and forbid them not to come unto me, for of such is the kingdom of heaven." Many ascribe various interpretations to this verse, but what are your thoughts? Who are the little children, and what does it mean to suffer them? How can the kingdom of heaven be like children? So many questions. Here the answers this Tuesday, July 16 on The Rock, with guests Nicola Carrara and Pastor Christopher Johnson as they discuss the topic, Suffer the Little Children. That's The Rock, Tuesday, July 16 at 10 a.m. here on the family station, Love 101.
Jamaica, your favorite gospel show. Jamaica Gospel Star.
For every hurdle in life, and that's why I drink True Shake. With True Shake, I get 9 grams of protein and 24 essential vitamins. I may be short, but with True Shake, I am not short of anything.
Come on, True Shake and go!
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm Stokeley Marshall. They've already pushed back the date. It was indicated multiple times, but the negotiating delegates in terms of the World Health Organization amendments to the international health regulations appears to be continuing. And between today and tomorrow, there is to be the 10th meeting for a WHO instrument in terms of pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response. Our guests today are Reverend Basil Hanson to help us discuss this. He's a founder. He is the founder and CEO of MTM TV, and he is also first vice president of the Association of Christian Communicators and Media. And we also have online this morning Archbishop Kenneth Richards, Roman Catholic Archbishop for Kingston, and he is a commentator and social commentator in his own right. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, Stokeley.
Good morning,
Good
Archbishop.
morning, Rev.
Morning, Stokeley.
Good morning to you both. Now, firstly, getting right into it, never enough time on the morning watch. If one takes a look at the definition of pandemic emergency, which appears to be what might end up being used in this new framework or in this framework that's being built out, the definition of pandemic emergency would include requires rapid, equitable, and enhanced coordinated international action with whole of government and whole of society approaches. Now, when one reads that, it begs the question or raises the question, how can a sovereign state guard against a pandemic response that the WHO in its wisdom might think is required, but the state itself might not think it's in their own best interest? For example, some countries might be able to withstand a lengthy lockdown. A country like Jamaica might not be able to, based on the effect it would have on so many small and micro business persons, vendors, persons who depend a lot on going out every single day to earn their bread, to earn their income, to make their profits. Starting with you, Archbishop Richards. And you can, of course, comment generally on this 10th meeting, if you would.
Well, I think that's what the way that the WHO is doing, and the intergovernmental negotiating body is bringing into perspective a reality that in particular has been raised by the Catholic Church in our teachings, in our encyclicals by popes, etc., and documents. For often we look at our relationship with God and the moral requirements accordingly, and then also our social engagement with our fellow man and the moral obligations accordingly. But what has been happening in recent times, and going back to the 50s, is a consciousness with respect to the moral obligation that we have to the environment because of the impact that it has on persons, affecting life, but also affecting livelihood. And you mentioned that there are some nations, because of their size, may be able to withstand lockdown. I tend to disagree with that because just COVID-19, for argument's sake, the impact that it had with respect to trade and economic activity and international geographical relations, everybody's affected if there's a pandemic. And so it is a concern of all stakeholders. And so it is quite commendable, the approach that is now at hand with respect to the WHO and the WHA, the Assembly, and with respect to putting in place plans, the highlight preventative plans, and then how to deal with things subsequently. But this brings to an awareness that indeed every person, every nation, but also every individual, every society must recognize they have a moral obligation with respect to how we treat the environment. We just need to look at what happens there, but that's aside. But in general, we must recognize that we must look at all our relationships, not only the relationship with God, our relationship with each other, but also our relationship to the environment. Because to the extent that we neglect the environment, then it turns on to hurt us.
And Archbishop, before we bring in Reverend Hanson, maybe you could bring some clarity to us here on the Morning Watch. Any comments on the Holy See not being a member of the WHO, but nevertheless being subject to the international health regulations of 2005? Do I have that correct, sir?
Well, what happens from the beginning, whether it is United Nations or other such international bodies, the Holy See, because of its size, and you could call it, therefore, its incapacity to be able to implement all the regulations that are associated with member of these organizations, we have maintained the observer status. And also, with respect to voting, etc., and issues, the Holy See was made in a neutral position. So it maintains the observer status, like participation, and makes intervention on that basis also.
Another country which is not a member of the WHO reportedly, but has a similar position as the Holy See is Liechtenstein, which some persons may know is a state within Europe. Pastor Hansen, Reverend Hansen, sir, would you like to comment on the question I raised with the Archbishop in terms of what is included in what looks like it could end up being the definition of pandemic emergency based on the talks taking place at the moment, requires rapid, equitable, and enhanced coordinated international action with whole of government and whole of society approaches, suggesting that even if you personally believe that certain measures should not apply to you as an individual or your family, that the whole of society approach might just pull you in regardless. Any comments on that, Reverend Hansen?
Thanks for having me, Stokeley. Well, as I said, before this pandemic treaty and before the COVID-19, the WHO was just an advisory body. So the WHO could advise country and could make suggestions, but they really could not mandate anybody to obey them or do what they say. Well, the COVID pandemic has kind of opened their eyes a little bit more that they need more power. And so they realized they could not tell countries what to do, but they could advise. I think now they want more. So the pandemic treaty is designed to give them more power, to say to countries around the world that we have the authority now to declare a pandemic or emergency, whatever they want to call it. That's not very good enough. That's very dangerous to give unelected officials that kind of power that could, supersede your constitution. And so those are some of the concerns that a lot of countries have why the meetings and the recent meeting fail, because there are countries who will not give up their constitutional right to unelected officials. And I think that is where the WHO wants to go. They want to have that kind of authority, that kind of power. And every time that people want to take away your freedom, they always use it is in your best interest. I look at the banking industry. And
Reverend Hansen, only because of time, I'm going to ask to pause for a moment. And there are some things you mentioned a moment ago that I'd like to comment on as well. But listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back at the Morning Watch.
Time is now 7:15 a.m.
In life, the more you have, the more you have to lose.
The more you love, the more you worry. The more you own, the less you sleep.
The more people rely on you, the more you have on your mind.
I have peace of mind,
knowing that whatever I own
and whoever I care about are covered by the very best.
With Sagicor Life and Advantage General, get life, health, and general insurance to help you protect what matters most.
The report is out.
What report?
The Constitutional Reform Committee's report of recommendations.
Recommendations on what?
On how we move from a monarchy to a republic, of course.
So what's in it?
The creation of the office of president and changes to our parliament. Yes, man. It also includes a new qualification for membership in parliament. I know you want to see that one.
Read the full report at roadtorepublic.mlca.gov.jm.
We are on the road to republic.
welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the first watch, and the topic in this first watch is 10th meeting for a WHO instrument on pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response. Our guests are Reverend Basil Hanson and Archbishop Kenneth Richards. Reverend Hanson, not to take away from anything you said just before the break, sir, but I'm going to read something from the WHO website itself. It does, and the date of this release is the 1st of June 2024. The headline reads, World Health Assembly Agreement reached on wide-ranging decisive package of amendments to improve the international health regulations, which I must underscore is different from what was to have been the pandemic treaty itself. It goes on to read in the first paragraph, in an historic development, the World Health Assembly, the annual meeting of its 194 member states, today agreed a package of critical amendments to the International Health Regulations 2005 and made concrete commitments to completing negotiations on a global pandemic agreement within a year at the latest, and possibly in 2024, this year. These critical actions have been taken in order to ensure comprehensive, robust systems are in place in all countries to protect the health and safety of all people everywhere from the risk of future outbreaks and pandemics. In light of the context I've just put there, Reverend Hanson, would you like to make any further comments?
Well, as I said, there are persons who the WHO really wants to have full authority over it's a global push. And so if another pandemic is declared, once you give them that authority, they can declare a pandemic tomorrow or whatever they deem fit to call a pandemic. And they would have full authority over the health sector of your country. And they would be able to supersede our government.
Could I ask to pause one moment, Reverend, because the head of the World Health Organization some time ago indicated that there is no attempt to override the sovereignty of member states. Does that put you at ease?
No, because if it is binding, you see, why is it? If that is so, why not allow the advisory position to remain? Why is it that you want it now to be binding? Once it is binding, you have to do it. You understand? You even if it means that you have to suspend your constitution as it relates to health. So I am not comfortable with that. You cannot allow unelected officials to run your country and suspend your constitution. That is what they want to do. And that is why the Africans are concerned about it, and they are not prepared to go down that road. In fact, America, 24 governors wrote to President Joe Biden on the 22nd of May, asking that this thing should not go through. So there are concerns and there are people, in other words, let me read what they said. On May 22nd, the elected official accused the WHO of seeking powers that would allow the body to unilaterally declare a global state of emergency. Those powers would elevate the body from its advisory role, the governor said, and would give it unconstitutional and unprecedented powers over the US that would undermine national sovereignty and infringe upon states' rights. That is what the 24 governor from the Republican Party is saying that would happen to America if they allow this to take precedence.
So based on what you're saying, Reverend Hanson, you don't think that there is any need to amend the current international health regulations of 2005?
No, but you see that one is advisory. This one is not advisory. This one is taking control of your health system, and they can declare pandemics whenever or whatever they think is deemed as pandemic. And that is why even America has concern about it. And UK has the same concern too.
Interesting. Archbishop, the Reverend Hansen raised a point about unelected persons making decisions for a particular country. And it would, of course, arguably include all countries of the world which are members of the WHO, all 194 of them. Any thoughts or comments on that, sir? Because essentially, technocrats, unelected, could have quite a bit of power if this is in fact what would happen based on what we are seeing at the moment and based on how some persons are looking at the draft text and what has been said and done so far. Any thoughts, Archbishop?
Well, maybe 2 points. One is that I don't think that even Jamaica, as a small state, would cede its authority over its sector, to an international body, etc. And that is why the deliberations are not really just a stalemate, but that it's being delayed because the body wants to make sure that indeed there is nothing that would be in there to compromise. But then at the end of it, unless your country become a signatory to it, these persons cannot have no authority over any aspect of your governance in your particular country. And so, I mean, I wouldn't have any fear with respect to that. Also, I don't think that, I mean, declaring a pandemic is something that is objective. It's not going to be something that is subjective to, well, we feel that there's a pandemic, epidemic that is going to be impacting. We see what COVID-19 did. And I think that what is being worked on with respect to this new guidelines that they want to put in place is how can we better coordinate with respect to both locally but also internationally and nation to nation with respect to if there is an epidemic and a pandemic that is going to affect all of us, because that's what COVID-19 did. And so I think that is, good intention. And if there's anything that is going to compromise a nation's integrity with respect to its authority over its structures, we just have to ignore it. They don't sign on to it, etc. So, I wouldn't have any fear with respect to that, thinking that they could take over or health sector and dictate to us with respect to what it is that we should do. But we can get information, guidance from them with respect to coordination. Well, the thing that is being discussed with respect to is access to medication, access to financing, and how to coordinate such. And so this is one of the instruments that is being discussed and deliberated now at the WHO.
And I think, well, I don't want to put words in the mouth of Reverend Hansen, but Archbishop, I think in light of what you just indicated, it could mean that what we already have now under the 2005 regulations are enough. In other words, we are already getting assistance. We are already getting guidance. We are already complying with the existing regulations. It's from all indications anyway. So I think it begs the question or raises the idea as to whether or not we really need to be part of discussions to amend the current IHR, International Health Regulations. I don't know if you have any comments on that. I don't know if the Holy See has any position on the matter that you'd like to echo. Anything on that, Archbishop?
Well, now I don't know what the position is of the Holy See yet. But at the same time, we just need to look at what happened with respect to the pandemic, with respect to access to the vaccine that could help nations, and how that was managed in such a way that some nations were left on the sideline, etc. And my own reading of what is the deliberations taking place is to make sure that there's equity in the system with respect to availability, as I mentioned, both to financing and to cures that can help to ameliorate the situation if a pandemic. But also And the thing is that we are part of the 194 nations are part of the deliberations. Every nation has to make sure that they are safeguarding the interests of their own nation, and therefore stand steadfast in doing so that there's nothing that is going to abrogate or interfere with. And if their interest is that much, just don't sign on to such a guideline. I mean, I think that's what it is.
And you mentioned the matter of vaccines, which obviously is one method or way to treat with issues, as you have indicated, sir. And that can become quite controversial because you have different views, and not just based on, opinion, but based on you're even having lawsuits. I can speak from that angle. There are even lawsuits in some countries as to the effects of some of the inoculations on persons and what those inoculations did to them. And although it can be indicated, or has been indicated rather, that side effects are rare, there are persons, if you are the person who was injured by that particular inoculation, it doesn't feel rare to you. It could have been fatal or could have been life-altering. So I don't know if you have a comment on that, Archbishop, before I go to Reverend Hansen and we wrap the show for this segment.
Well, the thing is that, as I mentioned, each country, each nation, in its own interest, should have its own guidelines and regulations with respect to determination with respect to what they access, etc. WHO or any organization can recommend. It is for us to make a determination. They can make us take what we don't want. Okay? And so free choice is always a part of this situation.
Interesting. Thank you for that, Archbishop. Only because of time. Reverend Hansen, before we wrap today, sir, any final thoughts you want to leave with us? We have just heard from Archbishop. He has said quite a bit. And, there is a view or a concern that the wording that is being proposed in terms of a pandemic treaty is such that it leaves some concern for some persons, in terms of the power it might give to experts, technocrats who might say, well, various countries need to now take certain measures in terms of whether they are declaring an emergency, whether it falls within the strict parameters or the stricter parameters that currently exist. Reverend Hansen, before we wrap today.
Yes, I tend to agree with Archbishop Richards that anything that any treaty or anything that seeks to take away our sovereignty is something that we should stay away from. Our government is not really clear on this treaty. Our government has not said much. I know of organization that has wrote to him, to the government about this pandemic treaty, and they have not responded. So we're really not sure where our government stands on it, but we would hope that they would not, cede our authority to unelected officials through these pandemic treaties and whatever treaties that they would come with in the future. Unelected official should never govern a country. Our elected official should govern our country.
Well, the 10th meeting is scheduled for today and tomorrow. Let us see how that goes. So this is a very timely discussion. I want to thank both the Archbishop and the Reverend Hansen for being with us in this first watch. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time and for your thoughts. Have a good day. The morning watch will be right back after this break.
The time by Gem Bank is
7:30.
Sardine with the chef and the beginner. Follow the pan with pepper, that's the winner. Shop on supermarkets, everybody sell it. You all of them nice. Pass the part, make us shell it.
Pick up grey sardines with peppers, vegetable oil, water and olive oil with peppers.
Fit up your breakfast, lunch or dinner. Shake it out, spice it up, make it simmer. Green sardine, yeah, the better flavor. Quick and easy as a quint it. Ready?
Grey sardines follow the better flavor.
The report is out.
What report?
The Constitutional Reform Committee's report of recommendations
Recommendations on what?
on how we move from a monarchy to a republic, of course.
So what's in it?
The creation of the office of president and changes to our parliament. Yes, man. It also includes a new qualification for membership in parliament. I know you want to see that one.
Read the full report at roadtorepublic.mlca.gov.jn.
We are on the road to republic.
On your mark, set, get ready to go! It's time for the True Juice 5K, the one-of-a-kind experience taking you through the beautiful True Juice orchards in Norwalk, Sunday, July 21, 2024. Register now at truejuice.com. Entry fee only $2,500. Come run, walk, and have fun while raising funds for the Lincoln Hospital. Follow at True Juice on Instagram for more details. You want $50,000 towards back-to-school expenses? Enter the AM Financial Back-to-School Promotion. Apply for any unsecured loan between $20,000 and $3.5 million and be one of 10 winners for a chance to win $50,000 towards tuition, books, anything for back to school. Apply now at loansale.amfinancialja.com. Applications close August 23rd, 2024 with the draw date August 30, 2024. Check our social media at amfinancialja for more information. Authorized under Section 58C of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act. Need to beat the heat this summer? Come to False Ridge for your ceiling fans at prices as low as $15,000. Their sleek and stylish 52-inch fan blades are designed to fit and complement your interior decor. Call them now at 876-937-5099 or visit any of their locations in Kingston, Mandeville, Montego Bay, and their newest location, Drexel. Beat the heat this summer at False Ridge with their Madison ceiling fans. Prices as low as $15,000. Open Sundays.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look now at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have in the Gleaner, firstly, cheering GOP delegates nominate Trump for president as he announces Vance as running mate. We have in the Daily Observer, coffee takes $200 million hit. Hurricane also affected pimento, cocoa, nutmeg, and ginger. No shortage expected. This story by Alicia Smith of The Observer. We have in Loop Jamaica News. 100 new CNG buses arrive for state-operated transportation service. Those and many other stories in our various news sources. Coming up next, we'll read for you some of the feedback from our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp question, which is, what are your thoughts on the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump? If you haven't done so yet, leave your responses on our Facebook or YouTube. Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
Matthew 19 verse 14 says, But Jesus said, Suffer the little children, and forbid them not to come unto me, for of such is the kingdom of heaven. Many ascribe various interpretations to this verse, but what are your thoughts? Who are the little children, and what does it mean to suffer them? How can the kingdom of heaven be like children? So many questions. Here are the answers this Tuesday, July 16 on The Rock, with guests Nicola Carrara and Pastor Christopher Johnson as they discuss the topic, Suffer the Little Children. That's The Rock, Tuesday, July 16 at 10 a.m. here on the family station, Love 101. Hurricane Hurricane Beryl has left many in St. Elizabeth urgently needing assistance. We here at the family station Love 101 invite you to be your brother's keeper by donating non-perishable items, bottled water, clothing, hygiene products, over-the-counter medicine, and more by Thursday, July 18, 2024. Please drop off your contributions at our office, 81 Hagley Park Road, Kingston 10. For cash donations, call us at 876-968-9596 or 876-968-9597. Thank you for your contribution. We are stronger together.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's join Jakal for a look at how our Facebook and WhatsApp friends answer today's question. What are your thoughts on the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump, Jakal?
All right, so we do have a response from Edna in Montego Bay. Let's hear from her.
Good morning, Morning Watch. Good morning, Love 101 listening and staff. Well, my concern about the attempt on Mr. Trump's life is very sad, and it seems as if history wants to repeat itself, you know. We are all human, and the evil that we have to go up against in each day, it's not normal, and it can happen to anybody, whether you are president or not. So, you know, I just hope that for the sake of the American democracy, there won't be such thing as the repeating of killing a president or whosoever. It's so sad.
That response was from Edna in Montego Bay. Cherry says, everyone deserves a fair chance and no one can stop purpose. God has the final say. Monica says stricter gun control legislation in regards to access of high power rifles. I guess she's speaking to the weapon that was used and how easily accessible it was to get it. So yes, that's what we have so far.
Very interesting. Thank you for those, Jakal. Well, of course, we move right into the second watch. Unless you were under a rock, under a tunnel, or in a tunnel, or under another bigger rock, you'd know by now that there was an attempt to assassinate U.S. presidential candidate and former President Donald Trump. President Trump was shot and injured in an assassination attempt last Saturday, July 13th. And during the incident, it led to the killing of a spectator and 2 other persons being injured. Now, some persons have different views on this assassination attempt, but the FBI says that they're in fact investigating an attempted assassination. And the alleged gunman or shooter was killed. Our deep condolences to the family of the man who died, in terms of the person who just went to a rally and died as a result of just being there, because the gunman's bullet led to his death. We pray a speedy recovery for those who were injured. Now, interestingly, a number of reactions from different persons. King Charles III has written to Donald Trump following his surviving the attempted assassination. We have where President Joe Biden, U.S. President Joe Biden, in a subsequent NBC interview, now calls his bullseye comment on Trump a mistake. He does indicate that his utterances did not result in the assassination attempt, but it was interesting that he did say that his bullseye comment made some days prior to the assassination attempt was a mistake. What do we all make of this? We have as our guests, continuing from the first watch, Reverend Basil Hanson, founder and CEO of MTM TV and first vice president of the Association of Christian Communicators and Media. We also have Reverend Dr. Ralston Nemad, who now joins the platform. He's an Anglican priest, author and columnist, and he's also a political and social commentator. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for staying with us, Reverend Hanson, and good morning, Reverend Nemard.
Morning.
Good morning, Stokeley. Good morning to your listeners and to our fellow guests.
No, there's so much to unravel, unpack in this entire discussion. We saw what we saw last Saturday. It was a shock to many, and you can ask, what do you think of led to this assassination attempt? How should we view this? We have even seen various comments being made on social media, and the comments seem to lean in one way or the other depending on your prior view of Mr. Trump. Some persons show a lack of sympathy. Some persons even expressed remarks wishing that he did not survive the attack. Sounds quite abhorrent, but as abhorrent as it sounds, that is what you have seen in some sections of social media. You firstly, Reverend Nemard, I don't know if you have anything to share at this time in relation to what I've raised so far.
Right. I would say that first off, that the attack on any political leader at all has to be viewed with very serious concern, and especially in the United States, where the situation has become very volatile and the society is pretty much divided along political lines, that something like this happening can only, cause more uncertainty and certainly anxiety in the society. It is very interesting when you look at what has been happening in the United States over the years. America is the only country that I can think of in which we have had 4 assassinations of presidents, and we have had the injury of 3 others. The last one being Donald Trump at this point. And you have to wonder if it is something of a cultural phenomenon, that you can have this sort of thing happening in a country that espouses the kind of democratic traditions as this country does. And lastly, let me just say quickly that, in the present political temperature that is in the country, we have to be very careful about assigning blame on either side as to where this may be coming from. I even hear the kind of asinine comment from some people that the shooter, that the Trump people themselves planned this in order to get an advantage. I mean, nothing could be more asinine than that. But the whole idea that we have to really, the political leaders have to really be very strong on the whole idea of keeping the temperature down and not assigning blame.
Only because of time.
And let the authorities do what they have to do.
Only because of time, Reverend Nemard, and we know that we haven't gotten a comment from you yet, Reverend Hanson, but we are now upon another break. I'm going to ask you, both of you gentlemen, to hold any other thoughts for the moment. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Sardine for the chef and the beginner. Follow the pan with pepper, that are the winner. Shop on supermarkets, everybody
sardines, follow the better flavor.
The time is
7:45.
The report is out.
What report?
The Constitutional Reform Committee's report of recommendations.
Recommendations on what?
On how we move from a monarchy to a republic, of course.
So what's in it?
The creation of the office of president and changes to our parliament. Yes, man. It also includes a new qualification for membership in parliament. I know you want to see that one.
Read the full report at roadtorepublic.nlca.gov.jm.
We are on the road to republic.
On your mark, set, get ready to go. It's time for the True Juice 5K, the one-of-a-kind experience taking you through the beautiful True Juice orchards in Norwalk, Sunday, July 21, 2024. Register now at truejuice.com. Entry fee only $2,500. Come run, walk, and have fun while raising funds for the Lincoln Hospital. Follow at True Juice on Instagram for more details.
You're invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your wealth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station, Love 101.
75-inch smart TV, quick sound bars that they get them away. Samsung Galaxy smartphone, a girl, S24, S24 grand. Just check out price when I get money for splash. And then I eat in a big money cash.
Get trivia prices of data and credit. Switch to Flow or activate any unlimited prepaid plan. Or pay a yard and road bill on time and in full for chances to win. Conditions apply.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the second watch. And the topic in this second watch is the attempted assassination of Trump. Our guests are Reverend Basil Hanson and Reverend Dr. Ralston Nemard. And just before the break, Reverend Dr. Nemard, you were making a couple of comments. Were you quite through before we move to Reverend Hanson, sir, or you were?
Yes, I can break there.
Okay. Reverend Hanson, I don't know if you have anything to add to what Reverend Nemard said. And in addition to what Reverend Nemard said, Reverend Dr. Nemard, pardon me, President Biden's tone following the assassination attempt, he spoke to the nation and arguably the entire world, shortly after the assassination attempt. His tone was very conciliatory, and even referring to former President Trump as Donald. I don't think I've ever heard him say that before. And he said he said the name Donald more than once. It sounded very personal. There was even either the same address or a subsequent one where he made reference to President Trump as a friend, which I don't think I'd ever heard before. Any views or comments, Reverend Hanson?
Yeah, it is very unfortunate, Stokely, but you could see this coming, because, I've been following Donald Trump from 2016, and, the many things that have been said about him, the many persecution, and for some reason, God seemed to just help him along the way, because I don't think no human being could endure all that he has been through and still standing. So I believe somewhere there is a divine hand, at work in Trump's life. And
I'm going to interject for a moment, because that's going to raise the whole matter of divine intervention, because he could have died had he not maybe turned his head at the precise moment that he did.
I think the Lord turned his head. I don't think it's him do it. I would not want to say it's him. I wouldn't give him any credit there. I would say that because there are some persons who want to make us feel that even God hate Trump. Yes, there are those. The last time I was on here, we had another pastor that was on here who, talk about his character and all of that. And I'm saying there are those who have promoted a narrative of hatred against Donald Trump over the last couple of years. A lot of hatred, a lot of things have gone against him. And the only way you could survive all of this is if a divine hand is somewhere at work there. I believe, and I've been saying it, for a long time, that I believe God is going to use Donald Trump to send a message to the world, and is going to teach US a lesson. I don't know what the lesson is going to look like, But I believe we need to understand that the government is on the shoulders of God. It's a God who puts government and it's God who takes them down. It is not votes and it's not, those things. It is God who decides who will rule at a certain time. And if God decides that Trump is going to rule at this juncture, there's no powers on this earth that can stop that, not even assassination attempt. And so I believe one of the things that is happening from this, one of the good things is that it is seemingly bringing a sense of calm, and the temperature is kind of dropping. People are, becoming more compassionate and speaking more compassionately. And even Trump himself look a little bit more subdued and seem to experience some emotional trauma as a result of this, which is normal. So I guess people are now seeing the human side of Donald Trump, because for years we have promoted him to be this beast or this person that is to be hated, and the media is guilty of doing such things. I believe right now is a time for healing, is a time for unity, and even as he's going to be speaking on Thursday, and he said he's not going to be speaking against certain things. He's going to talk about unity, trying to bring unity to the country and unity to the world, which is what we need. War is just everywhere. So I believe God in his wisdom is doing what he's doing, and I don't know what he's hoping to accomplish, but I see some positive coming out of all of this, and that God will be glorified at the end of the day, in spite of how the enemy is trying to defeat and destroy this man. God is going to show the world that he loves him, just like all of us, and all have sinned and come short of his glory, and it is God's grace that allow us to wake up this morning. And I believe God's grace was upon Donald Trump while he's still alive, and we thank God for that.
Yes, and I want to turn attention a little bit to the person who is described as the shooter or the gunman. And I don't know if anyone finds it significant that he was a registered Republican. Donald Trump, of course, being former Republican president and again running on the Republican ticket. But interestingly, when the alleged shooter, gunman, who is now deceased, when he was only 17, he had made a $15 donation to Act Blue, ACTBLUE, with the B being a capital B, it being a political action committee that raises money for left-leaning and Democratic politicians, according to a 2021 Federal Election Commission filing. Initially, in fact, not so much now, but initially, it was being indicated that he was a member of Antifa, but maybe that wasn't correct. I'm not sure. Initially, there was talk of someone with a slightly different name or a different name. But what seems to still be remaining in terms of what is reported is the whole matter of, him being a registered Republican and him having donated to Act Blue. Maybe the Antifa reference was an error. There's more to find out there as they do the investigations. Reverend Dr. Nemar?
Yes, before I address that, I'd like to go back a little to the God question in politics.
Yeah.
Because we have to be very careful. At least I have always been very careful, not the extent to which I assign divine intervention to human affairs.
Yeah.
Because I mean, take this for example. It would appear, from certain narratives. And we just heard the narrative from Reverend Hansen, that as if God takes sides in terms of political parties.
Well, if I could intervene, the Bible is littered with situations where God took a side. I mean, just think about the Gideons. The Gideon army. It's littered. I mean, the journey of the Israelites, it's littered. Going through that Red Sea, it is replete with examples of God taking sides. But continue, Reverend Doctor.
Right. But why does he stand? I'm talking about the present situation here.
No, that's fine.
We can always debate the
I am with you.
the Old Testament narrative. We can always debate.
I understand, Reverend Dr. Nemad. I'm just saying, based on the Holy Scriptures as we understand it, which we are reading from, God definitely takes sides. Although he extends his hand to all persons. But continue, Reverend Dr.
Yes, but we're talking about an Old Testament narrative nonetheless. But I won't pursue that. But what I'm trying to say in the present context, why is God more aligned on the side of the Republicans, aka Trump, and not on the side of the Democrats, aka Biden? And this kind of thing stokes division. And we put God on one side as if he's aligned on the side of a political party. That many people would disagree with the views that were expressed a while ago, the affable views about what he has built. I have to jump in. Rebellion.
I have to jump in.
Rebellion against the capital.
1 second, Reverend.
The man has said things, incendiary things, called people names, and has divided the society in so many ways by his rhetoric.
Reverend Dr. Nemad, only because of time, persons have called Mr. Trump Hitler. They have said that he's an existential threat. He's a threat to democracy. There is actually something where a very well-known popular person in the United States of America held up a beheaded person with an image of Donald Trump on it. A lot of things have been said by a lot of people and done by
that's the point. And that's
hold that thought. Let Reverend Hansen comment on what, because we're almost out of time.
Well, as I said, I want Reverend Nemad to put what I say in context, and I will say again, I believe divine intervention took place. And it's not because God loved Trump more than he loves anybody else. It's because of his purpose, what he wants to do in America and the world. Whether we like it or not, that's my opinion, and I stand by that. Divine intervention. I don't see how in a split second somebody's life is saved, and who you going to give the glory? Who you going to give the praise? Trump? That he just moved his head? And I must say that we need to be balanced as Christians. We have pushed a narrative of hatred for Donald Trump. And as Christians, God loves all of us, including Donald Trump. I'm not preaching division. I'm preaching that the will and the purpose of God must be done in America as well as it must be done in Jamaica. And if God is going to use Donald Trump, no, you can't stop it. We can't stop it. He is going to do what he's going to do. So we're not stoking any division and God taking any sides. It is what God is going to do in this season in America. And maybe the man to do it is Donald Trump. Whether we like him or not, that's not how God operates. God loves him.
Only because of time, gentlemen, we do have to wrap it here. But I wanted to mention something to both of you if you wish to comment. Secret Service protection and now being enhanced for Mr. Trump and now being extended to independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy. His father was assassinated and his uncle, former U.S. President Kennedy, was assassinated. Any final word in a second or two from either of you before we close?
What I would urge very quickly is that we take the kind of volatile rhetoric out of the discussion.
Reverend understood, and Reverend Hansen, you agree? Remove the divisive rhetoric?
Yes.
Okay, I think we have to leave it there for now because we are completely and totally out of time. I want to thank both of you gentlemen for being guests on the Morning Watch, Reverend Dr. Nemad and Reverend Hansen. Thank you, listeners, for being with us, and join us again tomorrow as we look at other topic and controversial issues. Visit the Love 101 FM YouTube channel, Facebook page for this and all other Love 101 FM programs. Listen to the Morning Watch on our Love 101 app. Download it today and stay connected to the family station, Love 101 FM, the #1 gospel station in Jamaica. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and to our guests. I am Stokeley Marshall, handing back to Love in the Morning with Jacal.